It's Tuesday. And on a Tuesday, I would love to tell you that nothing of note is happening, like the economy in a free fall, the housing market getting ready to implode, Donald Trump headed to China to negotiate, our entire country away as he sells the rest as parts and pieces to the highest bidder. We are in such a shit show of a place right now. Like it's almost comical. And I say almost comical because otherwise you will want to pull your hair out and cry. We're in it, folks. Like for those people who thought to themselves, yeah, we could ride out, another Trump term, like it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Where the fuck are those people right now? Because we're past the worry point. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you got one group of wealthy people building bunkers and trying to get off the planet. You got another group of people that are just trying to hunker down as if preparing for the economic tsunami that is getting ready to hit this country. But like we're in it. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's not the eye of the storm because the eye is actually where it's the most calm. Yo, buckle up, friends, because it's Tuesday and I'm just like, God damn, let's go. Welcome to the Danielle Moody Show, where we're here together so that, we can muster through. What a scene. What a shit show we are in. By the way, Donald Trump is also on his way to China with all of like the tech CEOs, Pete Hegseth, Tim Cook, Elon Musk. It's like, what could possibly go wrong when you put foreign leaders in the room with people who are hopped up on drugs? Do you know what I'm saying? And drunk all of the time. Like, I'm sure the amount of offending that will happen in that situation is going to be high. But probably just as high as where our inflation is right now. So here's something really interesting, which is that we're in such a bad place that Fox News can't even continue to lie about it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Fox News, according to Mike Nellis, is basically waving the white flag on inflation, saying prices are just going to keep going higher and nobody has a plan to deal with it.
Is not really for inflation to get much better throughout most of 2026. That's the story that you're seeing in these reports. Essentially, there's going to be some tariff inflation passing through on the good side. Now you have energy prices impacting services. It probably just isn't going to get that much better from here, and I think investors know that. They're focused on the AI story and hoping this inflation story doesn't get too much worse.
So they're just focused on different stories and hoping that, people aren't paying attention to their receipts at the gas station or the grocery store or any place that you're going to spend any bit of money. They're just hoping, you pay attention to what? AI stealing your job? Data centers causing like higher energy bills and, continuing with polluting the environment in which you're trying to live in. Like, what part of this are we all just like, well, don't look at this one over here. Like, don't look at this bad story over here. Look at the other bad story over there. Like, that's what they're banking on. And so here's Fox News again. Inflation jumps to 3.8%, highest increase since 2023. And just to remind you all, 2023, we were coming out of COVID, right? Like the economy had kind of been hit, and we were climbing out of that pandemic in 2023. We have no pandemic. Well, We don't have a pandemic that they're telling us about. They're telling us not to be concerned about the hantavirus, but it's all over the news. Nonetheless, um, but technically, we have no pandemic at our doorstep. Maybe it's down the street. And inflation is the highest that it has been since 2023. And then here's a reporter, right? Reporter, you promised to bring inflation down. It's now at its highest level in 3 years. Are your policies not working? Trump. My policies are working incredibly. If you want to let them have a nuclear weapon, you're a stupid person. You happen to be. Okay. What about this one, where a reporter asked Donald Trump about the war in Iran and what's motivating his decisions? I want you to take a real listen to this. It's hard because you have the helicopters and it's outside, but take a listen to what Donald Trump says when asked about the American people's financial situation.
When you're negotiating with Iran, Mr. President, to what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all. That's the only thing that motivates.
So, just to reiterate, reporter, to what extent are Americans' financial situation motivating you to make a deal? Donald Trump, not even a little bit. I don't think about Americans' financial situation, and he says, at all. I don't think about anyone, he said. I think about the fact that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. The only menace in the Middle East that supposedly has a nuclear weapon are the sociopaths that we're intertwined with as we continue to hang on to this ceasefire that is holding on by dental floss and a prayer at this moment, right? So Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck, right? Like he literally said that. I don't care at all about America's financial situation. This is the man. Remember when he said, I'm going to bring down grocery prices? Groceries. What a traditional word. What a fantastic word, groceries. Have you ever heard of it? Remember when he was talking about that and saying that he was going to bring it down? Remember when he said that gas prices were going to fall? Remember when he said on day one that Americans, like the prices were going to fall on everything like a rock? Remember when Donald Trump said that? And now, fast forward a year and a half into his second term, when we're on the verge of World War III, the economy is in a free fall, worse off than when we were in the midst of COVID. And everything was closed, at least in the states that gave a shit about their citizens. And now here we are. Fast forward. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about your financial situation, and Fox News is trying to divert your attention to AI. That's how good things are going. So remember yesterday when we talked about one of the policies that Donald Trump wants to institute to, help out the American people, which is suspending the gas tax, which would give us a whopping 18 cents back. 18 cents. But I want you to listen to who said back in 2022 that suspending the gas tax was a stupid idea, but who's probably clapping like a seal right now when Donald Trump wants to do it.
Tax holiday is just silly. It has no chance of passing Congress. It will not reduce gasoline prices. It does nothing, of course, to help energy companies increase fracking or pipelining or refining. It does nothing.
This is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of. I mean, what Joe Biden can do if he wants to have any effect on gas prices is to suspend and reverse his idiotic Green New Deal policies that are causing this crisis.
Now, Josh Hawley, if you remember, Josh Hawley was the one that gave the fist pump to the white nationalists that stormed the Capitol building and then was seen after they stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2021, running for his life. Yeah, that Josh Hawley was in 2022 talking about how stupid it would be to propose a tax, suspend the gas tax and have a tax holiday because it doesn't actually fucking do anything or help the American people in any financial way, and how dumb it was for Joe Biden to even float this idea. But I'm certain that now that Donald Trump has, you know, pulled out the same fucking idea, that it's a brilliant genius move, and somehow Josh Hawley will contort himself into a pretzel to tell us exactly how it's different 4 years later. Nonetheless, what I find fascinating, right, is how the American people have been duped into believing that the party that actually should be in charge of our economy is also the same party that, when they have been in charge of our economy, have run up the deficit and caused recession after recession. How does the Republican Party get the the branding as the party that is good on the economy? Like, and again, I understand they get the brand as good on the economy for wealthy people because that's who they actually care to cater to, is the wealthy donor class, who every time that they're in office, they cut taxes for. And because they don't have rich people pay their fair share, then everyone else has to pay more, which they can't afford to do because they can barely keep their heads above water, because we haven't seen an increase in salaries in like the last 2 to 3 decades. Nonetheless, and then that runs us into a recession, rinse and repeat. And then Democrats come in as the janitor to try and fix that job, whatever. So the fact is that Donald Trump has caused an incredible economic catastrophe by going to war with Iran. Now, the economy was already in a shitty place because of what? Donald Trump's global tariffs, right? Oh, we're going to make so much money on these tariffs, AKA a consumer tax that made your basic goods more expensive because Donald Trump wanted to put a tariff on everything. And then when it came to China, 200% and 300% and whatever, like he was on The Price is Right. So now federal judges have found that his, all-inclusive 10% tariffs are illegal. But we haven't heard of any change that is happening whatsoever. So the American people have been battling Donald Trump's consumer tax. Now they're battling an energy crisis on top of inflation that was already through the roof, but now the war in Iran has made even worse. And Donald Trump is telling you to your face on camera, I don't give a fuck if you can't afford shit. That ain't got nothing to do with me, because he walked in to the White House, I think, as a billionaire with maybe $2 billion net worth. And now, in just that year and a half, ask me how much Donald Trump is worth. Oh, he's worth close to $6 billion. So what does he know about Americans' financial situation? You know, those normies that go to that traditional place called the supermarket. So when we continue now to look, and I showed you this yesterday with regard to the housing market and where the housing market is, it's not in a good place. Like, it's in a place where it's starting to look a little bit like 2008. And I'm not talking like Obama. I'm talking what got Obama into office, which was the financial crash. But don't take my word for it. Listen over here.
Sika is with us now. Jeff, you're big in real estate. What do you make of these numbers, first of all?
Well, David, I think they're terrible. First off, I think we're in the seasonally strong time for selling
coming
homes.
Into it, yeah.
But now this is proving that to the first-time home buyer, this is still a blood-soaked hellscape for them. There's not a lot of inventory, that prices are extremely high, and interest rates are too high. And then you have all the people who are in lower interest rate homes that would want to either trade up, trade down. They're frozen out because rates are so high, and they'd have to take their low interest rate to get a higher interest rate. So the point I'm trying to make is that nothing has changed. This $4 million homes number, because of what we've been through, does not show we've made any improvement in affordability, and there's nothing more important than affordability.
Got to increase that inventory. You mentioned energy prices. How do you think the spike in energy prices is going to affect travel this summer, which is so important, critical?
Well, David, I look at travel as being, that to me is the gauge of, travel and leisure are the gauge of how the consumer is doing. Because think about it, if you have all your necessities covered, you're going to travel and you're going to spend money on leisure. Now, if you look at travel and leisure, it's been relatively strong because we've had a lot of rebound from the pandemic. Now what we're beginning to see is oil prices not only affect fuel, but they also affect hotel prices. Hotel rates go up. You have food.
But the question is how far these prices will go. So far, we're getting CPI numbers out this week. I believe it's tomorrow. How far will it go? Will these oil prices go and bleeding into the rest of the economy? Obviously, travel is big on it, but will we see it affect the core inflation rate?
It is, because now...
Hasn't been so far.
Not so far, but there's this lagging element of oil prices, because the longer oil prices stay elevated, you're going to see basic material prices start to elevate. I'm seeing it in my own business when we're involved with construction of any kind. You're seeing lumber, concrete, you're seeing a lot of steel. A lot of those prices are beginning to move up, some faster than others. And the longer this takes, the longer it takes for oil to come down, the more those basic material prices are going to stay high.
And so this is the thing that Fox News and others who are right wing try and set up to lie to the American public about what's happening. Because, what do we say? The literacy rate in this country is at what, 60%? And that's 60% at like a 6th grade level. So economics, not really high on that list of kind of understanding what is happening in this country and why there are some countries, right, that are being affected by this illegal, nonsensical war with famine and being on the brink of famine. And while the United States has the luxury not of being on the brink of famine, but being on the brink of an economic collapse, because there is a lag. And I continue to say that you are going right now, was on Long Island over the weekend. Gas was at $4.59. We're into month 3 of this war and of the Strait of Hormuz being closed. The last shipments of oil arrived in the United States a couple of weeks ago. So we are running 3 months behind schedule. The longer that the strait is closed, the longer it takes for it to get back up and running, the longer the trajectory is of the domino effect of the devastation. So you are going to see by the time that summer, like real summer, July, August hits, that you are going to see sky-high prices on every fucking thing. This is not just about the gas that you're putting in your car. This is about the gas that it takes to run everything. Everything. The packages that get delivered to your door, the groceries that get delivered to the grocery store, the jet fuel that is needed to have said packages move from place to place, the cargo ships, right? Like, folks, we are talking about the fact that I don't think that Americans are really going to understand what hits them until it hits them. Like a fucking, I don't know, until it hits them like Donald Trump's golden statue knocking you upside the head, right? Like that's when it's going to hit, when you are all of a sudden at the grocery store, at the gas station, going to these places, getting your energy bill as we head into summer. And what do we know about summer? Every summer is hotter than the last because that is the effect of climate change. I got to say this again, if anything good of note comes out of these devastating times, my hope is that what comes out of it is the recognition that we must move away from our oil dependency, that we must start to invest in green technologies. Otherwise, anytime that there is a conflict, it is going to end up wreaking havoc on our economy, the global economy, etc. It is past time. It was time when the scientists told us, oh, we have some time to correct climate change. And we said, fuck it. Those that are in power, they're like, we'll be dead by the time that we have super storms and super tornadoes and super hurricanes. Lo and behold, no, that shit is happening right now. But the fact is that it is going to be like living inside of a vice, right? Like that is what it's going to feel like for a majority of the American public. If you're making $1 million plus, you're going to be fine. Everybody else, not so much. But they're not telling you that. They keep telling you that everything will be fine. Oh, there's a lag, but don't worry about it. Oh, it's not that bad. Just buy less gas, etc., etc. And then here's Ro Khanna. If we were not at war, the Fed would have cut rates 2 to 3 times this year. Now it likely will be 0. Americans are paying more for their mortgages, more for their credit cards, more for student debt, and more for food and gas, all because Trump went along with Netanyahu's Iran war. And then Marco Rubio, that fucking addict, gets up at a presser today. And I got to tell you, I swear to God, you can't make this shit up. And I'm not going to play the clip for you. Thank yourselves for being spared. Marco Rubio, the goal of the war in Iran is now to return it to how it was before Trump started the war. Wait, what? Let me say that again. The goal of the war in Iran is to turn things back to how they were before the war, where he goes on to say that, the Strait of Hormuz is open, that there is no toll, that there are no mines in the strait, no mines that can go off, and that we want to desperately just return back to normal. Three months, thousands of people killed, 1 million plus Lebanese people displaced from their homes, costing the American people, again, we don't really know because they're lying about the real cost, but I don't know, $1 billion plus a day. The wreckage of our bases in the Middle East, which will cost, one can only assume, hundreds of millions to fix, not to mention the planes that have been lost, the aircraft carriers that have been lost, the depletion of our missile supplies that have been lost. Also, that Marco Rubio could tell us that the goal of the war is to go back to February 27th, when everything was flowing just fine. You can't make this shit up. Oh, and thank you. Shame over here. How many soldiers are dead? We have no fucking idea. Isn't that something? We have no idea how many soldiers have been killed. We have no idea how many have been wounded because, again, the Pentagon has been lying about it. And when asked on Capitol Hill, Pete Hegseth's response is, I don't have those, those detailed numbers. There's a lot of moving parts and moving pieces. No. You just don't want us to know how many men and women were murdered, killed at your hand for no fucking reason. For a war that, as some are reporting, Donald Trump entered into because he thought that his poll numbers would go up to the 80s like George W. Bush did after 9/11. Do you understand the difference between 9/11 and what Donald Trump did? Americans were attacked on 9/11. There was a terrorist attack on American soil. So, of course, the people of this country did what? Gather behind their president and say, do whatever is necessary in order to avenge the 3,000 plus deaths that happened because of that attack. So, of course, George W. Bush's poll numbers were up during that war. But what happened to him after that? He got shellacked because the American people do not have an appetite for long wars. It triggers post-traumatic stress from what? Vietnam, another losing fucking war that cost thousands upon thousands upon thousands of fucking lives. And here we are again. But what does Israel want? Just so we're clear, because apparently we're just a proxy for Israel, The Israelis want to have a state of endless war in which they will do what they have done in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and the West Bank to Iran, which is a mowing the lawn strategy. The end state is to be in a constant state of war in which you constantly have the ability of attacking these neighbors to make sure that they never amass enough power to challenge you. The Iranians, he added, absolutely are not going to accept being a part of Israel's mowing the lawn strategy. They're not looking for a pause or a half deal that just shifts the nature of the conflict from one theater to another. We have said this on this show, on Democracy-ish, that outside of perpetual war, the Israelis all of a sudden start to look around and realize that their leadership has been lying to them and using their fear of annihilation as a weapon of mass destruction around the fucking world. If Israel remains at war, then guess what they get to do? Bomb whoever the fuck they want and create, right? Create their greater Israel, which is to spread Israel outside of the confines that was created for them 70 some odd years ago. That's the plan. The plan is to obliterate their neighbors and steal their land to create the ambitions for a greater Israel. It is what is happening in the West Bank at the hands of these violent sociopathic settlers. It is what has happened in Gaza, the massive genocide and destruction. Folks, if you just right now, Google images of Gaza. And you have fucking Cory Booker and others saying that we have a long-standing partnership with Israel and that will never waver. You have a long-standing partnership with sociopathy and homicidal and genocidal maniacs who, by the way, have free healthcare and free education, neither of which we have in the United States. But folks, this is the strategy. They're mow the lawn, constant fear, constant bombing, constant spreading like a fucking virus. That's what they want. And so here's something that just gets me, right? One, I've showed you images of Donald Trump. I mean, today's only Tuesday, but yesterday, how he fell asleep again in the Oval Office, right? As all of people are gathered around for a press event. No one, that's not front page news. Remember when Joe Biden would like trip on a curb or fell off of a bike and how that was a national news story about his effectiveness and his mental acuity and his physical fitness, et cetera, et cetera. Donald Trump has been falling asleep in meetings. And take a look at what the fuck he did last night. This is Harry Sisson. Trump had one of his worst mental health episodes yet last night, posting over 55 times in 3 hours. 55 times in 3 hours. 10:15 accuses Obama of attempting a coup in 2016. Says Obama worked with the CIA to overthrow Trump. Reposts tweets saying Obama is a traitor. 10:22 attacks Dominion voting systems for 2020 elections, saying they switched the votes. 10:22 again says Fulton County, Georgia had their 2020 fraud exposed. It goes on. Folks, can you look at this shit? Can you look at this? From 10:15 ending at 1:13 a.m. Explain to me how this type of fucking meltdown is not front page news, with people asking seriously if Donald Trump is sundowning, if Donald Trump has the mental acuity to be president, has the temperament. We know that that is not the case because he called multiple people dumb today. And of course, they happen to be women. Look at this. Have any of you ever posted 55 times in a day? If I ever post 55 times in a day, someone come get me. Because I have clearly lost my fucking mind. This is not some teenage boy. This is the president of the United States who has access to the nuclear codes. And this is what he's doing. And no one is reporting it. It's just totally fucking normal. And then we move on to this. Because in the midst of so much chaos, friends, there are some stories that, like, I don't get to. I do my best, but I don't get to. So the FDA, Food and Drug Administration Commissioner, Marty McCary, is resigning from the agency. Kyle Diamantis, who previously worked as the top food official at the agency, will lead the FDA in an acting capacity. And then take a listen to this. McCary is out. Now, the U.S. has no CDC director, no FDA commissioner, and no surgeon general. And the NIH director, who is also de facto acting as CDC director, never trained in medicine. During this hantavirus outbreak, the U.S. needs steady public health leadership and authoritative voice to the American people. There currently is no one to fill that role. Folks, so I say this to say, when I said earlier, well, it's not like we're in a pandemic. How the fuck would we know if we were in a pandemic? It's not as if somebody's going to tell us. It's not as if there is anyone that is in charge that is keeping track of how many people have been infected, where they are in the United States. It's not as if they're doing contact tracing here, right? We know that the contact tracing was happening in Europe because they still have their protocols in place from COVID. Well, in the United States, half of the country decided that COVID was a hoax, and that also we never needed to hold in memoriam the over 1 million people that died because Donald Trump couldn't be bothered to tell them to put a fucking piece of cloth over their nose and over their mouths. Remember how he said, liberate this state and liberate that state. And we don't even do any reporting to see how many fucking people died in those red states from COVID because of their governors. No one was sued. No one went to jail. And we just pretend and act as if it didn't fucking happen. And so now, fast forward 4 fucking years, 5 at that, we have not one credible fucking person in this administration that is leading public health. Not one. We have a cocaine, heroin fucking addict that is the head of HHS, and every other position is vacant or is stacked with vaccine denialists. When I tell you that, to say that America is underprepared for the potential of a hantavirus to spread, or any fucking virus, bird flu, anything to catch hold, is the understatement of the fucking century. Just look at this again, folks, because I'm going to repeat it when I tell you that you need to be following Canada's public health news. You need to be following other states that have formed their consortium, like California and New York, and following their public health news. The United States has no CDC director, no FDA commissioner, no surgeon general. And the NIH director, who is also de facto acting as a CDC director, never trained in medicine. I swear to God, we are so, I try and look on the bright side for you all, right? I try and find some good news. I try and, remind us that all is not lost. But I got to tell you, when I saw that health news, I'm like, we are so fucked. Like, it's beyond. It's astounding. It is astounding. We lost 1 million people to COVID. And you would think that we would learn something, but no, we put the same motherfucker that was in charge back then, back in charge now. I swear to God, America needs everything that is happening to this country right now for people to understand how racism and how patriarchy fucking work. Because there is literally no other excuse for any of the things that are happening right now. So I just want to tell you folks, yeah, it's not great. And so here is Donald Trump, just today alone, He admitted he doesn't think about Americans' financial situation, threatened to send ICE and the National Guard to polling locations, called a reporter a dumb person for asking why the cost of his ballroom has doubled, said disenfranchising Black voters has been a wonderful process. Good job, America. Good job. And this was the question that was asked. Trump, we have a ballroom that's under budget. Mind you, last week I reported when Donald Trump first announced the ballroom, it was 200 million. That was the budget. That was the cost. Then it was 300. Then it went to 400. And now it's $1 billion. So this is Donald Trump. We have a ballroom that's under budget. It's going up right here. I've doubled the size of it because we obviously need that. Reporter, the price doubled. Trump, I doubled the size of it, you dumb person. You are not a smart person because you're a fucking toddler. And as if things couldn't get worse, they are worse. And here is this report. The Trump administration plans to remove regulations on ethylene oxide, allowing 8 tons of carcinogenic gas to be released in low-income neighborhoods. Because if you can't silence Black folks and steal their vote and make sure that the unemployment rate is double the national unemployment rate and make sure that they don't go to college and they're still around, you got to figure out a way to kill them. When we say low-income neighborhoods, largely who lives in those neighborhoods? Who lives in the neighborhoods where Elon Musk is being sued by the NAACP for his data centers that he knew were going to spew toxins into the air, but who gives a fuck about Black people? They don't deserve fresh air, clean water. Everything that they are doing has already been done. They're just bringing it back, right? You have a Supreme Court that rolled back the 20th century. All of the 20th century gains have been wiped out, including regulations that stopped the environmental injustices that were happening in Black and brown communities. While Donald Trump is just Xing those out. It'd been 30, 40 years of ensuring that Black and brown communities weren't the ones that had high asthma rates, lead in the fucking pipes, right? Diesel buses running through their towns, cancer rates above everyone else, water that you can't drink. What was old is back again. And that has always been the plan. Put Black people back in their place. Under your boot or 6 feet underground. They don't really care which. Meanwhile, happening today, because we can't forget about the fact that we started a war to divert from the fact that Donald Trump was mentioned in the Epstein files, 40,000 times, and that he flew on Epstein's jet, over 40 times, that he was credibly accused of raping a then 13-year-old girl. Today, there was a public hearing in West Palm Beach, just a few miles away from Mar-a-Lago. Hold 1 second and let me play this.
Here, of course, in Palm Beach, of course, just miles away from Mar-a-Lago, from key locations where this Epstein investigation has taken us, because from the very beginning, we know that Florida has been a key place where so much of the horrors and crimes of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell have happened. The survivors of Jeffrey Epstein deserve to be heard, and as a committee, we should always uplift their stories and I want to thank them, of course, for being here today. We know that many of our witnesses today that you'll hear from were actually failed by their own government. We will hear how the FBI ignored Maria Farmer's courageous report in 1996. We will learn how Epstein continued to game the system and the law to prey on women, expanding his trafficking network overseas. And we will hear from people who have fought hard to bring him to justice. These stories are both horrific and outrageous, but they should also inspire us to keep fighting for the full truth. We're here because every American deserves equal justice. It doesn't matter who you are, how powerful you are, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, how much wealth you may have. If you hurt women and girls, you will be held accountable.
You hear these things, right? If you hurt women and girls, you'll be held accountable. The whistleblower blew a whistle 30 years ago. No one is in jail. Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail, and she's going to be riding high on a pardon soon. Some people, a couple, have lost their jobs, but no one is serving time for rape and torture and potentially murder. We don't give a fuck about women and girls. Not in this country and not anywhere in the world do we care about what happens to half of the world's population. Too many believe that women and girls, you're only a product. You're an incubator for men. You're only here for entertainment and procreation. That's it. So it's like when I hear these members talk about accountability, the strength that these women have and persistence that they have is extraordinary. But they shouldn't have had to have it. 30 years ago, Jeffrey Epstein should have been jailed. He should have been put under a jail. His network should have been exposed, and all of those people should have gone to jail. But instead, they're sitting on the Supreme Court. They're sitting in C-suites. They're sitting in the White House. So what message is it that we send to women and girls in this country and around the world? You're disposable. That's the message that we send. Your pain, your heartbreak, your trauma doesn't matter. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll get a few bucks. Doesn't make the nightmares go away. Doesn't make you feel safe to be in relationships. They stole their lives. They stole their childhood. They stole their adulthood. And here these women are, linked by their trauma and doing their best to try and keep this story in the news, competing with war, competing with inflation, competing with a tanking global economy, and still trying to get justice. House Oversight Ranking Member Robert Garcia says Democrats will release a new report on May 12th that he says will detail from bank records, how the sweetheart deal that Alex Acosta helped further enrich Jeffrey Epstein and expand the network of sexual abuse of adolescent girls. This report is just the beginning that we intend to put out over the course of the months ahead. I'm sorry to be a bummer here, folks. I don't give a fuck about your reports. You're doing a book report on Jeffrey Epstein and the financial web of crimes that is so easy to follow by following the money. And what is the report going to do? Seriously. I know that I'm supposed to find some, I don't know, glimmer of hope here, But what the fuck is another report going to do? Get on record how much they've had to deal with and who is involved, and then you haul those people in for questions that they either lie about or don't answer or plead the fifth, and then they get to go back home to one of their 65 mansions. One of the, there were so many heartbreaking testimonies today. Survivor Danny Hanna Bensky testified that Trump's DOJ brazenly exposed her personal information and the information of hundreds of other victims. The same government that should be protecting Epstein survivors put them at risk all over again. And it's not a may have put them at risk, and they knew what the fuck they were doing by redacting the names of powerful men, but exposing the names of the very women who were victims of their trauma. It is to silence them, to make an example of them, to shut them the fuck up, and protect the men that do the harm. They knew what they were doing. Is anything going to happen to anyone inside the DOJ? Absolutely not. Then there's this, and people say it's important, Danielle. It's important for us to get these names. It's important for the record. And I'll tell you this. This actually, to me, is important. And I'm going to show it to you. And again, it's a reason why you all watch this show live, because later I'm going to have to cut this out for YouTube because they're using a song. But here is, in New York City, they've opened a Jeffrey Epstein boutique. And I don't want to play it for too long. The Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey Epstein Memorial Reading Room has just opened thanks to a U.S. transparency advocacy group in New York. All the files from the Epstein Files Transparency Act are there in 3,437 volumes, all numbered and organized on shelves. A printout of all the files released by the U.S. Department of Justice, roughly 3.5 million pages relating to the financier and convicted sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein, are there. Let me say that again. Over 3,400 volumes are in this reading room. A printout, 3.5 million pages are in this reading room. This reading room should be in every state and every major city across the country, where people can go in and see the timeline for themselves between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, where they can sit there, honor the victims, and look at what these men did. And again, I will say this. This syndicate didn't die when Jeffrey Epstein did. It just changed hands. It's still operating. But we haven't followed the money long enough, done the kind of deep digging that is necessary in order to figure out who is running it. Something tells me that it rhymes with rump. Just putting that out there. And then finally, we close out with this, which is the latest polls that Harry Enton says Democrats may want to pay attention to what is happening right now, because things seem to be going in their favor, but not so much.
This poll serves as a big-time reality check for Democrats, and that is, it ain't over yet, especially with the redistricting when we look ahead to the 2026 race for Congress. You would have thought that the Democrats' lead would expand on the generic congressional ballot. It didn't happen. Look, in March, Democrats were up by 6 points. Look at this now. Democrats are up by 3 points, and I want you to note the yellow lettering. No clear leader. It is within the margin of error. So despite all of the talk about Donald Trump's unpopularity, the fact is Republicans very much remain in the game when it comes to the congressional midterms, which are occurring in what, 6 or 7 months at this point?
And why do they remain in the game? Because they have rigged the game. Because they were going to lose if we were allowed to have free and fair elections. And instead, the Supreme Court gave them the green light to gerrymander and diminish, throw out, expel the black vote. So where do you think that things are heading? All the people that wanted to rest on their laurels and say, don't worry about it, midterms will save us. In 6 and 7 months, Republicans will have solidified their power in this country for the next several decades. It is Jim Crow 2.0. Midterms ain't stopping this white nationalist train. It needs to be thrown off the tracks. And that's not happening with a rigged election. Just a thought. Before we transition into Town Hall Tuesday, please get your questions ready. Write question in all capital letters, followed by your question. I'm going to do the Town Hall Tuesday for the next 10, 15 minutes or so. But before I do that, I wanted to make an announcement. Next week, I'm traveling beginning the end of this week into all of next week. I am going to be doing my shows as I always do when I'm on the road, but I want folks to make sure that you are subscribed to this channel because I always put up when I change times so that you see the schedule ahead of time so that you do not miss any of the episodes that I go live. But because of different time changes, I may be changing the time while I'm on the road so that I can go live. Because I really don't like just putting up videos. I like being in conversation with you all and seeing the conversations that you have together. So make sure, double check that you are subscribed to the Danielle Moody channel. Again, it is free. It is free also on Substack. But make sure you do that so that you can continue to keep up with the schedule as we go into next week. All right, folks, it is time for Town Hall Tuesday. So let's get into it. Folks, make sure to type question followed by your question for Town Hall Tuesday. Thank you so much. And let me know what burning questions that you have about either today's show, in general, about all the things. Thank you, Susan, for putting this up. Check the post tab. Yes, always on the post tab for my channel that you will get the updates on the schedule. Question. Oh, what time will you be on Dean's show today? Did he already do an announcement? I'm going to be on Dean Obadallah's Sirius XM show this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. 7 p.m. Eastern. So do check out Dean Obadallah's show on Sirius XM. I will be there 7 p.m. Eastern live. Philip, should America create a new constitution when this regime ever ends? I mean, when and how this regime ends will determine how and if we are able to create anything that is new. Because remember, it can end one of two ways. It can end with Republicans being sent off into the wind, so long, farewell, and prosecuted. Or it can end and we welcome in a Fuentes or Carlson regime. So it's like, what will a new constitution look like? One could look like Gilead. The other one could look like something that is radically revolutionary. Only time will tell. Oh, Daisy. Okay, so this is a WNBA question. Thoughts on Caitlin Clark over the weekend? So here's the scoop for those who don't follow the WNBA. Caitlin Clark, this is her third year in the pros. And the WNBA front office has tried desperately to make her, this white straight girl, the face of the league. And she's plays for the Indiana Fever, and her fans are rabidly racist. And I mean the fans that are in the stands, her fans on social media. They have attacked Black women in the league. They are consistently shouting disgusting, horrible things on the courts. She has done nothing with her platform to admonish those people, to say that she doesn't agree with with the things that they say. She has been silent and from there complicit. Then this weekend happens where Caitlin Clark decided to walk out, do a walkout with the country artist. What is his name? Morgan Allen. Morgan Allen, I think, is his name. Is and has been known as a racist. He has gone so far as to use the N word multiple times, and had to go on an apology tour where he found himself on Good Morning America, apologizing for the fact that he's a rabid racist and a homophobe. Caitlin Clark decided over the weekend that it would be a good idea for her brand to do a walkout at his concert. And now fans of the WNBA are coming for her in a way that they have never come for her before, because now it's like, oh, before you were just silent. Now you are complicit. Now you are an accessory to racism. Because here's the thing, and somebody said this on social media, and I want to concur. They said that associating with racists should have the same stench that associating with Jeffrey Epstein has. That there is no way for you to like hang out with Jeffrey Epstein, a known pedophile, and not be associated with pedophilia, rape, grifting, lies, all of these things. So if you are going to hang out with racists, you don't need to say the N-word. They're doing it for you. You are showing who you are by who you keep company with. And that is what Caitlin Clark did over the weekend. Thank you, Daisy, for that question. Good. Another one. What are your questions about the first weekend of the WNBA? It was amazing. I had such a fantastic time watching the games. I went to my first Liberty game. When was that? Last week, Friday, which was incredible. The energy was so amazing. It was great to be back in Barclays. Great to be with Liberty fans. I think it's going to be an incredible season, and I'm super excited about it. Jen, I think with the new legislation that gives the state control of new cars plus the flock surveillance systems, they are creating a digital prison. What do you think? Ooh, I don't know anything about flock surveillance systems, and I need to look into this more before I give you an answer. That's really interesting. Okay, I'm going to look into that, Jen. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. Question. Doesn't the plane with Trump and the Epstein class to China seem like incredibly compromised national security? Yep, it does, and they don't give a fuck. I think it's going to be an absolute disaster. And I think that Xi Jinping has all the cards, because America is about to go fucking bankrupt because of this war and because of Donald Trump's stupidity. And he is going to roll out the red carpet. He's going to say, oh, China, our great partners, give us $1 trillion. And then, what will happen to our national security then? We'll see. Do you think that Keir Starmer has much time left as the UK's prime minister? And yes, I do follow UK politics, Gus. He said today that he ain't leaving. He's not resigning. If there's a challenger, he said that he will go up against a challenger, but he's not just going to resign as other past PMs have done in the UK because they've had a volatile time about it. I think that you can put out a head of lettuce. I think that his time is coming up. Question. And Jen, question, is he really going to sell us to China for a trillion? Yes. Yes. I do think that he's going to do that. I think that all that China has to do is like throw in a fucking gold brick with Donald Trump's name on it. Right. And I think that he will absolutely fucking sell the United States out to China so long as he gets to keep a few bucks in his own pocket. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about national security. And he said today he doesn't care about Americans' financial situations. So you think that he cares about our national security? No, he doesn't. He cares about how much money he can make as he is sundowning. That's what he cares about. And at the end of the day, if China says, yeah, we got $1 trillion, we'll help dig you out of that hole, knowing the whole time that China plays the long fucking game, not the short game. And all Donald Trump and all those white supremacists, they just are in the now and not in the present grounded moment, just in the now of how much they can bang up and steal. China's out here playing a fucking 100-year like down the road. What would it mean to put America in your crown jewel? Lord, was it Morgan Wallen? Is that his name? I said Allen. I don't care. But thank you, Philip. I do care. I care to get the name right. And yes, sir, the N-word guy, yep, that's what she's doing. It is all over social media. It was all over this weekend. And yes, Jen, my thing with Caitlin Clark is like, look, you sometimes cannot control your fans, right? Like you can't control what they say or how they act, but you absolutely can control your platform and what you deem, right, as responsible behavior and what you want to be associated with. But somebody in Caitlin Clark's camp was just like, oh, don't piss off the fans. What does it sound like? Trump and MAGA. Don't piss off the base, right? Then the base will turn on you as they did with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she'll lose all her fans and then they'll boo her and she won't make as much money because she finds that being associated with white nationalism makes her more money than if she were to actually stand 10 toes down for the league that is built on the backs of Black and queer women. Yeah, she showed the world who she is, but Black women been knowing. They'd been knowing. Indiana Fever shorts came across my type over the weekend. When I Googled players, the Clark, Cunningham, and Hull popped up. To see the rest all Black, I had to hit the arrow. Yeah. And you know what they call themselves? Sophia Cunningham, Lexi Hull, and Caitlin Clark? Tres leches. What does that mean? 3 whites, 3 white milks. That's what they call themselves. No, like, without irony. Ciao. Question. Marjorie Taylor Greene and her family have reportedly moved into a $5 million mansion in Costa Rica. Think it's permanent, or is she taking a respite from all the heat? Child, I don't know. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene is up to something. Do I think that she leaves her base and like what she's building in this this off-ramp from MAGA into America's first? No, I don't think she's going to be there permanently at all. Is there a way for Virginia politicians to push through the new map? Yeah. Disregard the federal judges the same way that the Republicans do. Do whatever the fuck you want to do. I say, and I'll keep saying it, Bob Marley's quote, so long as the criminals make the laws, there will never be justice, right? These are a bunch of criminals on the Supreme Court and on these federal benches that Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell put in. So long as they are the ones that are making the laws that serve them and no one else, they're illegitimate. So move as if they didn't say shit. That's what I would do. Get them tied up in the courts. Let them be the ones that are tied up, and hopefully the clock will run out. That's what I would do. Looking for more questions. AR, do you see an effective national strike happening? I've said this. It's going to take Americans feeling a lot of pain, which I'm telling you is coming this summer, into the fall, and into 2027. When Americans start feeling pain and see no relief in sight and things getting increasingly worse, that is when we will most likely be able to build up the momentum for a national strike. But until white Americans start actually feeling pain on a regular basis, they'll keep on keeping on with the status quo. Good one. Question: Nutella or peanut butter? Peanut butter. I love peanut butter. Looking for a couple of more questions. Do you think the the racist Farage will be PM in the next general UK election? I mean, the UK, they move the same way that the United States moves. It's like they learn nothing, right? So, like, to elect another racist, I wouldn't put it past them. I would not put it past them. All right, folks. That is, I'm just looking to make sure I didn't miss anything. That is it for today's Town Hall Tuesday. Great questions, folks. And thank you for asking me questions about the WNBA and just letting my brain get to rest and not talk about politics for 10 minutes. It's awesome. I appreciate you. I will be back tomorrow. Is Wednesday. That is a supersized day on, guess what? On the Damn Digest on my Substack. So at noon, I am live with Jared Yates Sexton for the check-in at 3 p.m. I am live again with Wajahat Ali for the midweek democracy-ish. And then I am back here with all of you at 5 p.m. for the Danielle Moody Show. Folks, this is independent media, as you know. I am people powered. It is because of you that I am able to do this work. So before I get out of here, I want to thank the super stickers and super thanks. My friends call me Ghost, as always. Thank you so much for the $5. Dying Breed, thank you so much for the $5. Appreciate you. Our fantastic moderator, thank you so much for gifting a membership. Mink, thank you for the $2. Every dollar counts. Jack, thank you for the $5. Henry, thank you so much for the $20. Scott, as always, thank you so very much for the generosity and the $20. And Susan, thank you again for the $10. Folks, if you don't have the money, that's okay. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure that you are subscribed, because I tell you what, sometimes YouTube does something funny and they unsubscribe people. So do make sure that you're subscribed, like, comment, share this show, share these episodes, share this channel with your networks. But if you do have the money, folks, and you think about it, think about becoming a paid subscriber to either the Damn Digest, my YouTube channel, or both. But don't worry if you can't. You will never miss any content, because I believe that critical thinking dies behind a paywall, and we don't want that. We need critical thinking now more than ever. As always, dear friends, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you tomorrow all over the Substacks and back here at 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other.